Anthropic's cheapest coding model just beat their flagship on the hardest agentic coding benchmarks we have, and it costs a fifth of the price. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through Sonnet 5 versus Sonnet 4.6 versus Opus 4.8, the raw benchmark numbers, the pricing math per successful task, and the 3 scenarios where each model still wins. Stick around to scene 4, that's where the cost per fix chart flips everything you thought you knew about picking a Claude model. First, the lineup. Sonnet 4.6 shipped in April as Anthropic's mid-tier workhorse, fast, cheap, good enough for most coding agents. Opus 4.8 followed in June, the flagship, slower, expensive, but state-of-the-art on reasoning-heavy tasks. Sonnet 5 dropped this week with almost no fanfare, positioned as an incremental Sonnet update. But the moment the benchmarks landed, it became clear this is not a small update. Anthropic quietly rebuilt Sonnet's post-training pipeline around tool use and multi-step agent trajectories, and the numbers show it. Let's start with swe-bench verified, the gold standard for agentic coding, where a model has to actually fix real GitHub issues in real repos. Sonnet 4.6 scored 62%. Opus 4.8 came in at 71%. Sonnet 5? 74%. That's 3 points above the flagship, 12 points above its predecessor, and it did it with less than half the average token spend per task. On Terminal Bench, where the agent has to drive a live shell, Sonnet 5 hit 68%, edging out Opus by 2 points. The gap on tool calling accuracy is even wider, 91% versus Opus at 86%. Now the number that actually matters, dollars per successful fix. Opus 4.8 runs $15 per million input tokens and $75 per million output. Sonnet 5 comes in at $3 input, 15 output, 1/5 the price. Multiply that by the higher success rate and the shorter trajectories, and Sonnet 5 costs roughly 6 times less per resolved issue than Opus. 6 times. If you're burning $100 a day on an Opus-backed agent, that's a $16 a day agent that does more work. This is the chart Anthropic buried on page 4 of the model card, and it is genuinely the story of the release. So does Opus 4.8 still have a job? Yes, 3 of them. First, long context reasoning past 200,000 tokens. Opus still opens a 5 to 7 point gap on document QA and cross-file refactors in giant monorepos. Second, ambiguous specifications where the model has to negotiate intent. Opus is measurably better at asking the right clarifying question instead of confidently guessing. Third, safety-critical review passes. Opus's refusal calibration is tighter, which matters when the agent is touching production. But for the 90% of coding tasks that fit in under 100,000 tokens and have a clear goal, Sonnet 5 wins on every axis that matters. What about Sonnet 4.6? Honestly, it's now hard to justify. Sonnet 5 is the same price, the same speed envelope, and just flat out better across every benchmark Anthropic published. If you have workflows pinned to 4.6, migrate this week. The only reason to stay is if you've fine-tuned prompts to a specific 4.6 quirk. And keep an eye on latency. Sonnet 5's median response time in agent loops dropped 14%, which compounds beautifully when your agent makes 20 tool calls per task. Here's how I'd set up your stack today. Default everything to Sonnet 5, Cursor, Claude Code, Klein, your custom agents. Route to Opus 4.8 only when the context window blows past 150K, or when the task is spec ambiguous and you want the model to push back. Keep a small budget line for Opus review passes on anything touching production. That single routing rule will cut most teams' Anthropic bill by 50 to 70% while raising the success rate, which is the rarest kind of win in this industry. One more thing worth watching. This release is the clearest signal yet that Anthropic is done treating Sonnet as a light version of Opus. They're building it as a specialist, a coding agent model, and Opus is drifting toward a heavyweight reasoning role. If that split continues, expect the next Opus to be even more expensive and even more capable on long-horizon problems, while Sonnet keeps eating the everyday coding market. It's the same playbook OpenAI is running with O-Series versus GPT, and it's working. If this breakdown saved you a benchmark rabbit hole, hit subscribe. I'm running the same head-to-head against Gemini 3 Ultra and GPT 5.1 next week, with the full cost per task spreadsheet in the description. Drop your Sonnet 5 experience in the comments. Is it living up to the numbers in your real workflows? See you in the next one.